Hey, what's going on, everybody? So I woke up to some great news today, and that's that the channel reached 20,000 subscribers. It's just a great accomplishment. It's something I've been working hard towards, but I just want to thank everybody for your support over the years of building this thing up. And not only am I happy for the channel and everything, but I think it really shows just the dedicated fan base that the Miami Hurricanes have, that they're really interested in everything about the teams. Football, basketball, baseball is what we cover. So I think it just shows a lot about you guys as a fan base, just how interested and how passionate you are about the team. Okay, today was the 7th practice. You know, it was great being back out here. It was the first one after the scrimmage, and Coach Cristobal didn't provide any comments after the scrimmage on Saturday, but he did today, and we weren't able to be at the scrimmage there on Saturday either, but today he spoke a lot about some guys that impressed. Definitely check out his comments on what he had to say, but there are a few guys that stood out to me that impressed, and one of them is running back Henry Parrish. Look, Coach Cristobal has mentioned Henry Parrish, running back again for his second season at Miami, multiple times throughout the spring, and I asked Coach, what is it about Henry that's impressing you specifically? And he said, look, there's a few different things. He's breaking runs, but also he's getting in and out of his cuts pretty good. And it's also, they're starting to see a little bit more things that they figured he would be when they were recruiting him there once he entered the transfer portal out of Ole Miss. He also noted he's catching the ball out of the backfield well also. So that's good to hear that Henry Parrish, some of the things that he's doing well, and that he's continued to impress Coach. So I find that to be interesting because certainly I think Henry does have an extra gear. I think he can be a little bit more productive. I think the new offensive line is going to help guys like Henry, and Henry has spoken about just the impact that he's already seen these new guys make. And look, a few guys spoke after practice, one of them being today was Javian Cohen, the transfer from Alabama, playing left guard. He spoke great. He had a lot of great things to say. He speaks very highly of Matt Lee, the center. He feels like he's learning a lot from Matt, called him an NFL center. He also thinks very highly of the two freshmen. He always says this to Samson Okunlola all the time about his talent, how he has a bright future ahead. So he has seen these guys working with them in practice, and I think it's good that he's saying a lot of positive things. And I think Javian, not only with his leadership, providing great leadership to this group because he has played a lot, but just having great perspective. I feel like he definitely spoke a lot about maybe what he sees with this team, how it compares to Alabama. He did say that Coach Cristobal is running a similar practice schedule, you know, a day-to-day, and how they break down a practice with its structure, but also the intensity he expects. He feels like that's very similar to how it was at Alabama. He does feel like the starting O-line, essentially that top unit, is very close in terms of being what he thinks Alabama was when he left Alabama. So, and we'll see about that. Still left a lot to be determined with how good Miami's offensive line is going to be, but just the fact that he's saying a lot of positive things, I feel like that's a good sign, and he's certainly excited. He's glad to be here. He actually shared a story about when they were playing the national championship game in Miami, and they actually practiced here at UM. When he was practicing for the game, he just felt like this would be a great place to practice. Felt like, you know, and just interesting how it all worked out, he said. So Javian spoke well, he spoke great, he's playing well. They're expecting a lot out of him there at that left guard spot. I feel like him and Matt Lee are really going to work off each other in terms of everything they know, everything that they can share to the rest of the group. So we'll see how things kind of progress, but those two guys are to me, just definite upgrades on the O-line, and I think Miami, once again, has a chance to have a better offensive line, which I think in turn can make the offense a little bit more productive for next season. Speaking of the offense, Tyler Van Dyke spoke after practice, as well as defensive lineman Akeem Mesidor. But with Tyler, a few things stand out to me, and I was glad the question was asked. I was going to ask it. I actually asked another question to Tyler that I'll get to, but it was about the downfield shots. And you know, he feels like they've definitely shown more downfield ability in the spring, and that's what Coach Dawson wants with this new offense put in, and Tyler feels good about it. He said two guys in particular, Colby Young had a good one today, and also Jacoby George. He's mentioning him as a potential downfield threat once the season happens, and we've seen flash with Jacoby. But again, Tyler's excited about what he sees from Jacoby so far, planning on throwing it deep more, and we will see how that works out. Speaking of wide receivers, you know, former Hurricane KJ Osborne was here at practice, as well as former quarterback Malik Rozier. So good to see some former guys back. Also some recruits were here at practice. A high school team from Utah there was here west out of Salt Lake City. So good to see a team out here, especially a different part of the country. Today at practice, I focused on watching the linebackers going through drills. They were in shells today, just in upper pads. They didn't have the full pads on. I would assume they'll do that again on Thursday. And hopefully, once again, on Thursday, we're able to watch the offensive and defensive line up close. Reason why I keep mentioning that is because we're just about 90 to 100 yards away from a lot of the drills, able to see them a little bit. And today I did watch the defensive line, go up against the sled a little bit in some drills there, but I'm really looking forward to seeing them a lot closer. I will say, and I haven't mentioned him this yet, but Collins Chiampong is just a really big guy there, a freshman defensive lineman, a highly regarded guy, former 4-star recruit coming out of high school, but doesn't matter where you are on the field, his size stands out, and so that was good to see. Just watching him go through some drills. I'll post that on the channel. But again, going back to linebackers, I watched them today, going through a lot of drills. I'll have video on them on the channel. Also, I will still be posting the running back video as well. I haven't had a chance to put that together, just a lot going on, but definitely still plan to do that. With linebackers, I want to make sure I note this is Francisco Mauinoa had an interception today on Tyler Van Dyke. Tyler, kind of said it's good to see from Francisco, essentially for the team. Obviously, he doesn't want to throw interceptions, but he just felt like, Francisco has stood out. They call him Kiko. So he's doing well, and just watching him in drills, he stands out. I like how he moves. They did a lot of shuffle work, kind of going side to side on angle drills, also catching the ball. I thought he did a good job there. In drills, they would go 2 at a time for most drills, and he was paired up with Corey Flagg during those drills, which I found to be interesting because they essentially play the same position. But when they did some team stuff, they were split up there. So, it's just something to watch. Wesley Bissaint kind of going with Francisco there as kind of the pairing to maybe watch for. Wesley looked good in drills as well. Keontra Smith, I thought Bobby Washington struggled a little bit catching the ball on some passes on those drills. Coach talked about him afterwards, said he's doing well athletically, showing flashes, and certainly you're expecting all of that. But again, today, just on those few drills that we watched for a few periods, that I thought he dropped a few passes, and you'll get a chance to see that too. So he certainly can bounce back. Not saying it's an issue or anything like that, just that's what I saw today. So I was focused primarily on the linebackers today. Again, I mentioned how I watched a little bit of the defensive line, also watched a little bit of the secondary. They're right in front of me, so I couldn't help but not watch them a little bit. Defensive coordinator Lance Guidry has been working a lot with the defensive backs when we're out there for those drill portions. And today, Guidry was a little frustrated on some of the things that were going on with what he wanted, with where he wanted certain players. So that was just interesting. He's also a vocal guy. He expresses his frustration, but we'll see. It's part of the learning process with a new defensive coordinator and some new defensive players as well. But I'll be paying attention to that moving forward, kind of watch to see if that continues throughout the rest of the spring, or if it's just one of those things that we noticed today. But it's just one of those things that you're always glad to be able to see, kind of the reality of what's going on out of practice. Again, we're only out here for a few periods, so I don't want to blow things up and make it seem like it's a huge deal when things like this happen, or even a player when they drop passes like a Bobby Washington that I mentioned earlier, just on some drills. We're not out here all the time, and we don't see a lot of the team stuff when they go against the opposite with the offense, defense, those kind of matchups. So I don't want to make things into bigger deals. It's just, for me, you notice it, you keep track of it, and you kind of evaluate things if it becomes a trend with how you see things moving forward. That's kind of my approach with certain things like this, and that's really been my approach regardless of how often you get to be out here or how much you get to see. And just briefly, Akeem Mesidor said he was glad to be back out here. I asked him a question about number change. He's wearing number 3, the significance of that. He said he wore number 2 in high school, 90 obviously last year at Miami and West Virginia there. But he said, he wanted number 9, maybe switching to that number. Number 2, he did say Daryl Porter, former teammate at West Virginia, wanted that number switched there. And Nigel Lee Kelly wanted number 9. So he wanted a single digit. He went with number 3, he said, just to make everybody happy. So I'm always curious about that. Another thing I just kind of asked about Tyler Van Dyke was just, he's a Connecticut guy. And there's a big game on the basketball court coming up there with Miami in the Final Four facing UConn. I asked Tyler about that, about UConn, friends, family, that kind of thing. And he said he grew up a big UConn basketball fan. He mentioned Kemba Walker, Shabazz Napier, those guys. I talked to him afterwards too. He said he went to some games as a kid. They played in a couple different places, but playing in Hartford, he would always make sure if he could get over there, he could. So, but he's rooting for Miami. I want to make sure I make that clear. But you know, friends, family. He said he's been kind of he has a lot of friends that go to UConn, and he's been talking trash to them. Definitely stay tuned to the channel. More coverage of the basketball team. But once again, I'm going to get through those running back drill video and also the video on the linebackers, some other stuff as well. So definitely stay locked in. Just because we hit that 20,000 subscriber mark doesn't mean we're done. We just move the next goal ahead. So definitely going to grind to get to 25. That'll be the next one. It's really a huge accomplishment, coming from zero to nothing and really putting a lot of effort into this the last few years. So once again, just appreciate everybody. And also, if anybody else is out there on the grind, no matter where you're at, just keep at it, stick with it, believe in yourself, and kind of move forward. So thanks again for your support. Hopefully you have a good rest of the day. Thanks for watching, and take care.